who have joined so far, and we could start the session. I'd like to welcome everybody to this high-level forum where we shall have dialogue around driving manufacturing ambition towards a circular economy. This is a forum where we've partnered Kenya Association of Manufacturers and our members with the UN Global Compact and also the government through the Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And in this partnership, we wish to have dialogue on the opportunities around circular economy, coming from a past where we use traditional methods of take, make, and waste. And this has proven to be inefficient and unsustainable. So the manufacturing sector has taken leadership in driving innovations around the circular economy. Today, we present to you some of the business leaders who have been able to do some innovations, and they will share their experiences with us in this dialogue. We also are we have the presence of PS, Dr. Chris Kipto, PS Environment, who has done a lot of work as an individual and also as the ministry in matters climate change, circular economy, green growth, and just addressing all the policy and legal environment that supports progressive opportunities for the business in this country. We also have our chairman, Mr. Mushai Konyiha, who has taken leadership and has been very passionate about promoting green and circular economy in this country and comparing with the best practices across the world. And we have also representatives from NEMA, Dr. Arno Mambia. We have the industrialists themselves, Shiro Awero from FunKids. We have Sanjiv Saktev from Alternative Energy Systems, Tejal Dodia from Thika Cloth Mills, and Akshay Shah from Seal Africa, who also is the acting chairperson for KEPRO. So to this morning, we are going to have an exciting time listening to the leaders, and the opportunities are available for us all. So we'll start now at 10 and end at 11:30. For those who may want to ask questions, you could post the questions in the Q&A section. You could also send chats there or raise your hand, and later on, we will address your questions either immediately or during the Q&A section that will be at the end of the panel session. At that time, you can also raise your hand and we shall pick and call you out to speak. We'll also be taking notes from this session so that this partnership can move forward progressively in addressing any challenges or opportunities or solutions that may arise out of this meeting. But the main objectives really is to shine a light on new and emerging business opportunities within the circularity of the economy, also promote dialogue in building sustainable consumption and production to achieve an inclusive and resilient economic recovery post-COVID. I know post-me is debatable. We are still within the COVID period, but because it's a new normal, we find ways of it's post the shock. And now how then do we operate with all the crises that may arise now or in the future? Also present SDGs as an important instrument for the development of new and innovative solutions, and demonstrate practical actions for driving manufacturing ambition towards a circular economy. At this point, I wish to invite the Chief Executive of the UN Global Compact, Ms. Judy Njino, to do opening remarks and speak a little of the role of the Global Compact in this partnership. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you again for that background and warm welcome to our participants today. So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome you all once again to our joint CAM and Global Compact Network Kenya CEOs Forum that seeks to drive manufacturing ambition towards a circular economy. First, I would like to recognize our esteemed speakers who will amplify the private sector's voice towards this critical agenda. Today on this call, we have Principal Secretary for Environment, Dr. Chris Kipto, karibu sana, CAM Chairman, Mushahi Konyiha, FunKids and Fun Homes Managing Director, Shiro Waweru, SIL Africa Group Managing Director Akshay Shah, Thika Cloth Mills Managing Director Tejal Dothia, Alternative Energy Systems Director Sanjiv Saktev, NEMA Chief Compliance Officer and Climate Change Coordinator Dr. Anne Omambia, CAM and UN Global Compact members on the call today, and I think you've turned out in very good numbers. So we look forward to a very exciting conversation with you all. As you know, the circular economy will undoubtedly be vital to a stronger recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. While the world rapidly works to restore normalcy, we must not lose sight of the global climate emergency that threatens our collective future. Healthy societies, resilient economies, and thriving businesses rely on nature. Yet, according to the World Economic Forum in 2020, more than half of the world's total GDP is at risk from nature loss. Business and governments, therefore, need to work together now to reverse this imminent environmental catastrophe in this decade. In order to comprehensively address the problem of energy use and climate change, we must reconsider how we manufacture and consume goods. This is at the heart of the circular economy. The environmental principles of the UN Global Compact support the business community to increase stewardship of natural resources and be a force for good. Companies must step up in 4 key ways to ensure we deliver increased ambition and move into a circular economy. And we propose the following measures that all businesses can take. One is investing in breakthrough innovation that increases circularity, extended product life, waste management, and recycling. 2 is engaging in conversation to change the rules, such as the one that we are having this morning. 3 is to create a knowledge base and engage your workers to be partners in this change. And 4 is really communicating and collaborating with your customers and partners to drive the next level of ambition. Transitioning towards a circular business model might seem like a formidable task. It might appear that now is not the right time to make the change. After all, we have so many other pressing priorities. However, it is unlikely that such a time will ever come. The wait and see approach will certainly lead to the realization that it is too late to reverse the course and prevent the catastrophic consequence of climate change and biodiversity loss. So ladies and gentlemen, let us start small and celebrate the little triumphs. But let us move fast because time is not on our side. When the circular thinking encompasses everyday life, we can safeguard our natural resources rather than destroy them. This journey is made simpler if done collectively. So one company effort alone is commendable, but it is not enough to help change the tide of the environmental destruction that we are currently seeing. So the next 10 years, as encompassed within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals, will be crucial. We must not relax our ambitions to deliver on this ambitious agenda as presented by the SDGs. So we look forward to discussions ahead that will shed more light on the emerging business opportunities in the circular economy with the CEOs that we have invited across the different sectors that you will see today, who will showcase real action for what driving manufacturing ambition for a more inclusive and resilient economy looks like. So I thank you all for your attention and really looking forward to the discussions ahead, the new ideas that will come out from this conversation and how we can collectively move forward to ensure that we basically drive our economies and our growth in inclusive and sustainable ways. So I thank you and looking forward to engaging with you all. Over to you, Joyce.
Thank you very much, Judy. We appreciate the global knowledge that you've shared with us on the trends. At this point, I'd like to invite the CAM chairman, Mr. Moshai Konyiha, to also do his welcome remarks and the position of the CAM leadership in this subject, and thereafter invite our chief guest to do the keynote address. Welcome, Mr. Moshai.
Thank you very much. Joyce and Judy for those words of introduction. Our the cause. I want to recognize our PS Environment, Dr. Chris Kipto, a good friend and supporter of business over the years. Thank you for joining us, as well as the CEOs who are on the panel who will be speaking to us. They were introduced to you earlier, and we'll hear a little bit more about them. And of course, the participants and members who are here with us. As our members will know, we've been part of the Global Compact for many years now, even hosting it and forming it within Kenya. And the idea here is to get businesses aligned and behind the sustainable development goals of the UN so that we can try and achieve them in good time. And I hope this is the aim. We hope many of us can join the Global Compact Network as well, as joining CAM and work together towards this goal on the sustainable development goals. As far as circularity goes and linear economies, I just had a few thoughts for us to think about, and especially as leaders of businesses, because this is, after all, a CEO manager, senior managers session. The first thing is to think about, when we think about the linear economy, it's easy for us to think that it was always like that. But it's good for us to know that the linear economy was actually created at some point. It was manufactured. It was people at a certain point manufacturing economies. It just seemed to make sense. At that time, we were fewer people on the planet. The resources seemed endless. And so it seemed like, yeah, let's just get resources, we use them. Everybody was going for what is the lowest cost, what can we do? And in fact, it was built to become even more and more efficient. So it was built with efficiency in it. I remember going to, if you go to these budget hotels in the US and so on, they don't own a single spoon or a plate. You find everything is plastic. And that is because it's very efficient. So they've built these very efficient supply chains so that they don't have people to wash dishes. They don't have people to count those dishes. There's a reason they were doing that. It was a drive towards efficiency. But in the recent past, we've begun to see that our global resources are not endless. There's a limit to what we can use within the earth as our populations grow, and that, you know, we have to constrain ourselves for future generations as well. And we won't go into that story, but I think we all know about there is a resource constraint. But I think an additional story for us in places like Africa is to start thinking about, we are actually in a resource scarce environment. That is what you would describe poverty as. That's part of what poverty is. Poor environments. We are not in the rich economies. So resources are limited. So we need to start thinking about, why are we throwing away things which would be resources? So the whole idea of this thing, waste, that we have waste, things that we no longer need, we can't really afford it. Whatever we are throwing away, we need to look through it and start saying, can I use this for something else? At a big level, what else can it be used for? Because it is not just waste, it is usable. And I think the stories we'll be hearing from the panel here will tell you about so many things, so many materials that we think are waste actually have a very, very long life behind them. We just need to be innovative and think about what we do. So it's not inevitable that we have to have a linear economy. It is possible for us to become circular and grow in that circularity, just as the way the linear economy grew. So a few thoughts around then, how do you get into this circular economy? The first thing, and I think Judy mentioned that slightly, is that you start now. We talk about trees. We say the best time to have planted a tree was 30 years ago. The second best time is today, or immediately now. So it is with this circular economy. We should probably have started many years ago, but we might be late. But better start now. So start working on it. And it's remembering also that this is not something that is done at a snap of a button. It is going to take time. Before you can shift from one to the other, this is all going to take quite a bit of time. So you need to start sooner rather than later, so that you can begin to put in those building blocks, just like the tree, so that that tree can grow in time. If you don't plant it today, it will never happen. So we must start. And we know that there is let's say there are difficulties or there are things that we need to solve before we get there. There are regulatory issues, the kind of things we've been doing with KEBS, and even we now have some regulations on EPRs and so on. There are things that need to be put in place for this to work better. On quality standards, etc. Even getting the economics to work, getting our consumers to understand the importance of the circularity and so on. That is going to take us time, but we must start. That is the important thing. Secondly, it's going to mean that we have very clear effort and determination to succeed. And that becomes now, it's become strategic questions. And I'm glad on our panel we have CEOs of different businesses who will be telling us that basically the first thing is to make the strategic decision that this is going to happen. This cannot be something that you send to your CSR officer or your, it's something that you do on once a year as you plant trees. It has to be at the core of your strategy. And so it's important for us to put it within the core of our strategy in everything we're doing, in every new decision that you're making. If you're bringing in a new product, we're thinking about what is the circularity around this product, about the different parts of it. What can I take from the marketplace that is maybe being thrown away that I can add into my product and start making new things? So it's got to be very strategic, and we are thinking across the board in everything that we are doing so that we can succeed in this. And then finally, I think, which is part of what we are doing today, is that it's going to take partnerships. We cannot do this on our own because one, even the way the system works is that I need to find something that somebody else thought was waste and I can use it for something else. We need to work with government. We need to work with regulators. We need to work with other players in the industry to also build volume, for instance. If we talk about recycling, like plastic, it's easy for me to say I want to recycle the plastic I produce, but I probably don't produce enough to make it economically viable. But if I join an EPR, for instance, or I join a bigger collective, then we're able to bring in those volumes and start changing the economics around this circularity. So it means we must work together. And so kudos also to Global Compact and the CAM team for bringing us together so that we can also connect and meet with each other and know how we'll be able to do this going forward. So KEM has been very active in this field, like has been mentioned. And we're doing it because we are just conscious of what is going on in the world, getting more environmentally conscious as our customers are. And our ask, especially to our members, is that let us be proactive about these things because it is happening. All the signs are there. We've seen it gone. It's done in the West, a lot of the West. It is not long before it's not even long. It is already here that our consumers are going to be demanding the same of us. And of course, we've heard about the climate change challenges that are there. They are not disputable. And so we need to take action now. Let us be proactive about this and not just wait for government to issue laws and edicts, but we are already ahead of the game in this. So what have we been doing? We've worked on plastics, a lot of work around plastics, starting with our cooperation with the ministry around plastic waste. We participated in the formation of the first EPR, which was PETCO. We've been working on a plastics action plan that resulted in the formation of the Kenya Extended Producer Responsibility Organization, also known as KEPRO, and other regulatory work with KEBS and so on, just trying to say, let's get this going. And of course, all these kind of forums to talk with people. Significantly also, we set up last year the Center for Green Growth and Climate Change, where we are going to try and get all these ideas, not just around circularity, but around climate change, environment, the environment and sustainability discussed, and as a route and a channel to which we can equip our members so that they're able to understand, be given the necessary tools, and even if we need to do funding and networks can be created within that center. Just this week, we launched also Ukamilifu, which is our platform around sustainability. And we are trying to bring it not just for our membership, but as a CAM story, where we can have all these conversations around what we'll be doing around sustainability, circularity, and helping the environment improve. So we're looking forward to this engagement, hearing what these front-runner companies have been doing in their sectors, the challenges they have, and the opportunities that they're seeing and what we can engage with it. So looking forward to that and hoping to hear what they say. And before we get to them, I think it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Kipto, who, like I said, has been a good friend of KAM, even from his earlier days in the CS of Trade, sorry, the PS at Trade. And even before that, when he was working in the private sector with Trademark. So we've had a long engagement with him, and he's also still passionate about these issues in wherever he goes. So thank you very much for being with us, and welcome to give you a keynote remarks. Karibu, Dr. Kipto.
Thank you, Chairman Musai Kunia. And let me also recognize the presence of Judy Njino, the Executive Director for Global Compact Network, Kenya, Shiru Waweru, the Managing Director for Funkis Limited, Akshay Shah, Sila Africa Grouping Managing Director, Tejal Dodia, the MD for Thika Clothes Mills, Sanjiv Sanjiv, Alternative Energy Systems Director, and all other compact members of both CAM and UN. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a pleasure for me to join you in this very important meeting that is focusing on a very important subject of driving manufacturing ambition towards circular economy. So I want to, at the very onset, thank CAM and Global Compact for your quest to align your strategies and your operations with the universal values and principles on human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption, and more importantly, take actions that advance sustainable development goals. I note that from this forum, this forum today seeks to promote a high-level dialogue on the importance of building sustainable consumption and production in the manufacturing sector to achieve an inclusive and resilient economic recovery post-COVID. So my ministry has been pursuing a number of strategies to support the paradigm shift for the private sector to move from linear to circular economy in accordance with the SDGs. The transition to circular economy is motivated by the need to move towards a net zero carbon and waste, as well as a green future with significant promotion of sustainability within businesses, increased profits and competitive opportunities for our manufacturing industry. But let me focus a little bit on the importance of circular economy. Adopting a circular economy is about resources moving from cradle to cradle, where waste from one process is a resource in another process or other processes. Instead of cradle to grave, where the impact created by the disposal of products has a negative effect on the environment. So circular economy gives us the tools to tackle climate change and biodiversity loss together, while addressing important social needs. Circular economy also gives us the power to grow prosperity, to grow our jobs and resilience, while protecting our environment. Currently, most of the industrial and other economic production processes are more linear in terms of emissions and resource use. Natural resources and processed materials are produced, used, and wasted in a linear fashion. This has consequences such as pollution, unsustainable natural resource depletion, and waste generation. Economically, this represents inefficiencies, lost value, and depreciation of natural resources. We therefore need to close these gaps by minimizing resource waste and pollution. And this means moving to circular economy. To avoid these inefficiencies, it is therefore important that manufacturers move from the linear to circular model. And this calls for local industry to eliminate waste, circulate products and materials, and regenerate nature. We have partnered with the business community, and in particular, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, to promote circular economy. Our areas of partnership include the following. They are not, I'm not mentioning all of them, but one is that we have a framework of cooperation between the government through the Ministry of Environment and Forestry and the NEMA and the private sector CAM to reduce plastic waste in the environment through collecting and recycling. We also are working with CAM in environmental policy formulation at both national and county levels. And CAM is a member of the National Committee developing the Extended Producer Responsibility Regulations of 2020, which are almost complete. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the county executive, the county executive officers of environment to try and finalize on some of the issues that they had concerns. And we hope that these regulations will be gazetted very soon. Another area that we are working together is on research and development of the Kenya Plastic Action Plan, which was launched in 2019 for the sustainable use and recycling of plastic in Kenya, and the Kenya Producer Responsibility Organization Model Business Plan launched in 2020. We have also partnered with CAM and NEMA to conduct study to map out waste collectors and recyclers across the country. This will assist in identifying gaps and needs in the recycling industry. And maybe I just need, before I move to our commitments, I need also to still look at what we have done in the last 2 decades. You all remember in 2007, we imposed a 120% excise tax on polythene bags, followed by a ban of bags, plastic bags in 2008. And we had an assessment report of 2014, which demonstrated that pursuing a green economy scenario will result in faster economic growth, projecting that by 2030, our GDP could be 12% higher by taking a green growth pathway compared with continuing as a business as usual model. So based on this report, Kenya developed a green economy strategy and implementation plan. We call it GESIP, from 2016 to 2030, which is guiding the country's transition to green growth and circular economy. We also have the National Climate Finance Policy, which I know CAM and other private sector institutions have worked with us to develop. This is for 2018. We have the National Climate Change Framework Policy of 2018. We have the Climate Change Act of 2016, the National Climate Change Action Plan of 2018 to 2022, and of course, even the Sustainable Waste Management Policy and Bill, which was approved by Cabinet in February this year. And the bill is now before Parliament, and we hope that this bill will be passed very soon, because this now will be the legal framework, especially that will help us in sorting out the organic waste. And of course, we have the Green Public Procurement Framework of 2021 that intends to incentivize private sector's transition to green manufacturing of green products and services. So ladies and gentlemen, what's our commitment? The government of Kenya remains committed to promoting circular economy in all sectors, including manufacturing. In this regard, we shall continue to transfer knowledge on a business case on government's climate change initiatives at the farm level and the importance of complying with government directives on climate change. For example, environmental compliance and measurement to ensure high quality standards are implemented and sustained by industry. Number 2 is to provide industries with the best practices on environmental compliance through capacity building and compliance assessment in line with environmental regulations. Number 3 is linking industries with technology providers, working towards implementation of efficiency, environmentally sound solutions, and abatement of CO2 emissions to achieve sustainable manufacturing. And finally, to reduce industrial carbon footprint by creating awareness on reporting mechanism at farm level. The center will also provide assessment and identification of areas of carbon production. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me now to take this opportunity to applaud Global Compact Network Kenya for spearheading this agenda to the private sector. The United Nations Global Compact plays an integral part through its environmental principles in the delivery of sustainable circular economy and just transition to climate adaptation and resilience. Let us all be guided by the UN Global Compact principles on environment, which call on all businesses to 1, support a precautionary approach to environmental challenges, 2, undertake initiatives to promote greater environmental responsibility, and 3, encourage the development and diffusion of environmentally friendly technologies. I encourage the private sector to step up its efforts, and be accountable by implementing these principles within their business practices. It's only through our collective action that will enable Kenya advance sustainable development goals. As I conclude, I call upon all companies in the meeting today, and even those not in the meeting, to raise their sustainability ambitions, to act decisively by adopting new mindsets to solve our common challenges, and to build and trial new business models towards a circular and inclusive economy. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, PS Environment, Dr. Chris Kipto, for the very good commitment from government on your role in promoting circular economy and all the efforts that you've made in enhancing support towards this development, working closely with private sector, and we really appreciate that. And thank you also, Mr. Mushai, our chairman, CAM, Kenya Association of Manufacturers. For those who are just joining, we've just listened to the PS, who's been the chief guest, as well as our chairman and the CEO of Global Compact. At least we have demystified the story of circular economy, which remains a mystery to a lot of people. And part of this dialogue is just to enhance the knowledge. Now that we're in a knowledge economy, and circular economy will thrive through this knowledge sphere, and also data, the way we collect data and analyze that data. So for those who have just joined, my name is Joyce Njogu, Head of Business Development, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and we are having a high-level dialogue on how to drive the ambition of the manufacturing sector and other businesses towards circular economy. The idea here around sustainable development really is to secure the needs and the resources of the present and the future generation amidst the high population growth that we are seeing, a lot of urbanization, a lot of technological innovations that are at our disposal. How do we utilize all these resources to drive innovation in how we green companies and green the society? So we are decoupling. I know the climate change networks like the word decoupling. We are decoupling SDGs, green economy, and mainly integration of environmental issues into the economic process at mainly micro level, farm level, and then seeing the benefits at the community level and generally as a nation. So we are addressing a collaborative approach on how we drive our vision as a country, all the way down to the businesses and the consumers, and how we promote a green market, a green consumer market. So I wish to move us to the next session, which is a panel session. We listen to the experts for about 50 minutes, who will speak to us on their experiences on how they've transitioned to green business models, promoting circular economy. And with us in the panel, we have Dr. Anne Omambia, who's from NEMA, and she will be joining us to explain and really just express to us the role of NEMA and the things that they're doing to enhance circular economy and promote positive environmental performance in this country. We also have Shiro Awero, who's there also the CEO of Fun Kids. She has also been a champion in driving green and circular models in her business, and she'll be telling us the story. Welcome, Shiro, and welcome, Dr. Anne. In the panel also, we have Tejal Dodian, the MD of Thika Cloth Mills, who will also tell us, we've tried to balance different sectors so that we hear how different sectors are approaching this. Besides the plastics, there's a lot of stories going on also with the businesses. So Thika Cloth Mills from textile and apparel sector will also be giving us their background and how the sector is affected and the future for the sector. Within the panel, we also have Sanjiv Saktev, the Director of Alternative Energy Systems. He'll also be telling us his story about waste and how then they're using it as a resource to promote a clean environment, cleaning up Kenya. And lastly, we have Akshay Shah, the Group MD of SEAL Africa, who's also the acting chair of KEPRO, a newly launched a platform for collaborative approach towards how we promote packaging innovations. Welcome, welcome, and thank you so much for availing yourselves to share your stories as we engage this high-level network on discussing how we drive this ambition, not just locally, but globally, now that it's a global debate. So to start us off this morning is Dr. Anne Omambia. Dr. Anne, if it's possible, you could switch on your video. The first question is on circular economy, how it presents a great solution to minimize waste and maximize the use of natural resources. What does circular economy mean to you and to NEMA? And do you think it has a staying power to drive sustainable development? This is from a background where a lot of businesses start with innovations and then we are unable to sustain those innovations, either because of regulatory compliance, seeking licenses to operate, or just not finding relevant regulations or support mechanism for compliance. Dr. Anne Omambia. Maybe you could increase your volume, Dr. Anne, we can't hear you. Can anybody hear Dr. Anne Omambia? I can't hear you personally.
I can't hear her either.
Okay.
Seems like the audio is disconnected. Maybe she could check.
Check your audio again. Dr. Omambia, we can see you, but we can't hear you. Let's just give her a few minutes. If it's okay with you, we'll give you time to try and check out the sound, and we could go to the next panelist. We still can't hear you, although you're on mute now. I still can't hear you. Maybe you could chat me privately when your sound works. Dr. Omambia, you can chat me privately when your sound begins to work. So we can go then, sorry about that, a little technological challenge. We can listen to Shiro Awero, the MD of Fun Kids. Shiro, Fun Kids has been distinguished in terms of having an innovative brand, a shining light on the opportunities that exist within circularity. You could start by telling us what those innovations are, but as a trailblazer in this field, what is the mindset that is required to move such ideas forward and have a great product in the market? And how has your journey been so far, Shiro?
Thank you, Joyce. Good morning, everybody. An absolute pleasure to be having this conversation that's dear to my heart and to the environment. I'm the CEO of Fun Kids, a children's brand, the first children's brand from Africa. And more recently in the pandemic, we've launched Fun Homes that caters to adults too. Now, it's been fascinating trying to have conversation around the circular economy, as we say, Kizungu Mingi. And if you look at it traditionally, we didn't have waste, as our chair Mushai had said. We recycled everything, and it was actually even called hand-me-downs. We wore our relatives' clothes, furniture, even our food in our fridges, in our stores, were in a old Kimbo or Blue Band, not any specific brand, container. We didn't have all this new Tupperware. We literally reused even the soap dishes, right? So when did this change? Unfortunately, profit does drive a lot of stuff. And we need to relook at who we are traditionally, I think, as a people, and simplify it. If we even maybe renamed it and call it merry-go-round, I don't know, for some of us to understand it a bit better in context. So what we've done as Fun Kids, raw material we know became a challenge. We want to protect the environment and stop cutting trees. So if you look at when we talk about being together as manufacturing businesses, if you look at big business waste, maybe Tejal, I'll just mention like fabric, how do we within the manufacturing sector of children's furniture and adults furniture get textile waste and upcycle it and use it within our products, whether it's cushions, whether it's sofas? How do we take pallets, for example? Pallet is a trend, but it is waste from businesses that import a lot. They need to, maybe they have pallets that are then just thrown on the side of the road. So what do we do with that? We write to big businesses, and thank you again, Chair Mushai, for being one of the businesses that has supported this initiative, where we take the pallets and we upcycle them and turn them into dignified furniture for schools in Kenya. Because on one hand, we see images of children sitting on water, on stones, on the floor. It's not okay. On the other hand, we have big organizations that have waste, even broken furniture. You find a lot of organizations in their stores, on their corridors, have old broken furniture. It's a crime to sit with that, because what is perceived as waste to you is a resource for a business like ours, Fund Kids, that is needed for the children in Kenya. So we take a lot of furniture waste and convert it into dignified furniture for the children of Kenya. It then becomes affordable. We make it look really good. But also at the same time, we're protecting the environment. By each time we do that, we're saving on trees. So that's what we've done as Fund Kids. Now as Fund Homes, you'll see we're also doing a lot of sustainability and circularity, using waste from agricultural waste, from forest waste, converting them into building boards that you can actually use for ceilings, walls, table furniture, etc. It's a whole new world, but it's such a beautiful world, because yes, we will hopefully turn profit, but at the same time, we're creating green jobs. We're answering to the unemployment through innovation, and it works for us as a country and a continent.
Thank you so much, Shiro. You know, I realized, you know, you have simplified this whole issue of circularity, looking at clothes. The clothes that we've been wearing, hand-me-downs and shoes and all that, it begins to explain in a very simple way. And thank you for that. And as we continue with the conversations, I wish to bring back Dr. Anne Mamambia. Maybe you could just speak so that we hear whether your audio is working.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Can hear you very well. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, and apologies for that. Technology always intimidates, even for the masters of technology. I was saying that thank you for having me here, and on behalf of the Director General of NEMA, I'd wish to register his apologies. He was not able to attend because they're out in the field, and therefore wish to represent him on this very important high-level discussion on driving ambition on manufacturing. Yes, our question was with regards to our understanding of what circular economy is, and how can we drive sustainable development. And I would wish to appreciate and thank our Principal Secretary, Dr. Chris Kipto, who has given a very good summary of what the government is doing with regards to providing the enabling environment towards driving circularity and sustainability. And he also provided the definition of what circular economy is to us, a relatively vast concept, I would say, within the environment sphere in the recent past, which relates more towards having a closed loop to all aspects, not only manufacturing, to waste management, to all sectors of management of the environment, including within the agriculture sector. So when we talk about circular economy, we can apply it in all spheres of life. And therefore, because it's an economic model, essentially, it's a system that seeks investment in ensuring that there is a wise use of natural resources. And that's what principle is enshrined within the Constitution, which gives us a right to a clean and healthy environment, and is also enshrined in all other laws and regulations of the government. So to us, circular economy is a solution to minimize waste and maximize use of natural resources. And essentially that means that you're able to continuously think and rethink. So I know that in waste management, we always had 3 R's, but now the drive is to increase the R's. In the recent past, I saw there were 7 R's, where we have to, at the design stage, before you design, you have to redesign. So I'm thinking of designing an item for manufacturing. At the thought process, rethink it, redesign it to make it sustainable, and therefore think end of life before you can actually roll it out of the manufacturing system. Then upon use, then we have the reusing, the recycling, and as much as possible, you can be able to share it out to others to now utilize it through the industrial symbiosis. One which I know that the pockets within the industrial manufacturing sector here in Kenya who have picked up the industrial symbiosis, where one industry's waste becomes another industry's input. And therefore, in our understanding, therefore, as an organization, we have provided the environmental and social frameworks, which are all aimed at resource efficiency through the environmental impact assessment. For programs, policies, and plans, we recommend undertaking of strategic environmental assessment, where you are able to analyze the whole plan or program or policy that you're putting into place to make it as smart as possible. And also in terms of resource efficiency, think energy utilization, think wise use of the water, think the impact on the air and how best you can be able to clean it up. So looking at the entire sphere of the environment of land, air, and water, and the impacts that your footprint could have in its totality. I hope that I've been able to sufficiently respond to that question. So in essence, it is a system of closed loops, one in which raw materials, components, and products retain as much value as possible. And the best way to retain value is when at manufacturing point, you're able to integrate the sustainability components of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anumambia, for giving the position of the understanding from NEMA and representing NEMA very well. I'm glad so far we are still speaking the same language, same vocabulary as we look at the opportunities and sustainability of going circular in this economy. I'd like to invite, Director of Alternative Energy Systems, Sanjiv Saktev, to give us his view also from a business perspective, looking at an innovative business model that is focused on converting waste plastic into usable forms of energy through the use of technology. Sanjiv, what led you to adopt this approach in dealing with the plastic waste problem?
Good morning. Thank you for having me here today, and to my fellow panelists, thank you very much. So what made us come into this market? I mean, at a high level, when we were looking at the sector, we first had to look at the structure of the channel of waste. How organized was it? What was the discipline within the sector? And when we looked at waste back in 2015, when we came up with the concept, waste was a fairly undisciplined, unstructured area where policy and legislation was still at early concept stage. So that was a very positive role for us to look at a sector which was still emerging. And when you look to the sector, you see that tech was not very, was deployed at maybe the collection stage, but the recycling technology wasn't actually so advanced at that point in time. So being passionate about the environment, being passionate about technology, we decided then to look down that route and see what could we do. But then, of course, funding becomes an issue. And at that point, again, in 2017, 2015, when we were looking at this, there was no such thing as impact investment, impact funding, ESG funding, and funding was also quite a challenge at that point. But we managed to get around this, and the passion for this, for the environment, and to clean up Africa, and to clean up Kenya specifically, was one of the key driving motives for us as shareholders and founders of the company. And cleaning up Kenya was one of the main initiatives, because at that point, plastic bag ban hadn't even been initiated yet. So when you look around, you see a lot of plastic, you see a lot of waste, and something clicked, and we thought, okay, maybe there's a play here, maybe there's something to work here. And we explored different technologies globally, from Europe to China to the Americas, and we found an Indian technology that made some sense. But unfortunately, as there are technology glitches, and the tech didn't work when we brought it over to Kenya. So it took a long time to actually make the tech work, make it financially sustainable, make the product work itself. And it's been a long journey to get to this point where now today we are producing a synthetic oil out of end-of-life plastic, not even industrial waste. It's the end-of-life plastic bags, sub 30 micron, your gunias, your PP, your HDLD. And we were able to create a oil which is sulfur-free, which replaces diesel, which replaces furnace oil, which is one of the largest sulfur-emitting fuel sources in the region. And we've been able to drive change, although quite small at the moment. We've been able to drive some change in the manufacturing hospitality sector. And thankfully, it's been received very well. But it's been a long road. It's been a difficult journey, especially on the collecting side, on working with different agencies around policy, working with industry, because it comes at a price as well. And so, the hospitality sectors, the manufacturing sectors have been very generous in supporting the fuel and trying the fuel and working with us to make it work. And it's been fun so far.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sanjiv. And thank you for the passion around cleaning up Kenya through the waste innovation model, business model. And we appreciate that. We'll be listening to you later. I'd like to now invite Akshay Shah. Akshay is the Group Managing Director of Seal Africa, for those who have just joined. Akshay, maybe you could tell us a little about Seal Africa. Who are you, and who is KEPRO again? What is KEPRO exactly? And what partnership is this that you have with KEPRO in reducing the environmental impact of consumer waste and the plastic packaging innovations? Welcome, Akshay.
Thanks, Joyce, and thank you everybody else for having me on this very important conversation. So Seal Africa is a 60-year-old company manufacturing 100% recyclable rigid plastic packaging for consumer packaged goods. And we have manufacturing operations in Kenya, Tanzania, and Ethiopia. KEPRO is the Kenya Extended Producer Responsibility Organization. This is incubated out of KEM, and it's essentially what came out of the Kenya Plastic Action Plan that was initiated after the plastic bag ban in 2017, with the aim to introduce a different way of looking at what do we do with waste in the environment, which is essentially bring awareness about what the circular economy approach can do. So rather than banning various materials, let's manage these materials in a more sustainable way, all the way from the raw material to the design, to the manufacturing, to the packaging use, to the collection, even the retailing. Look at different models of retailing, such as refillables and returnable and reusable packaging. And then support the waste management operators, the collectors, sorters, and recyclers. So you can think of KEPRO as like one entity in which all the various stakeholders in the packaged goods value chain can become a member, and through their membership fees, we build the organization capability to develop and implement EPR schemes for various types of packaging materials. We launched KEPRO last year and have a very widely represented board. And through that, we've been able to develop EPR schemes for flexible plastic packaging waste. We will then be doing it for rigid plastic packaging waste, also for paper, for metals, for glass. And all of this is in consultation with the stakeholders and the actors within those value chains. Because the idea is to not eliminate the material, but rather make the material circular. So that's what KEPRO does. And I think your next question was about what's the relationship or the collaboration between South Africa and Kepro? It's essentially that, you know, any stakeholder who is within that consumer goods packaged consumer goods value chain. So I'm talking about raw material suppliers, you know, packaging manufacturers, the packaging users, which are the brands, the importers, the fillers, and then retail, any of the retailers, and then all the waste management operators from collectors, sorters, and recyclers. They all, if they join Kepro, then Kepro can then, you know, on behalf of them, be able to manage the waste out of the environment. So South Africa looked at this as a model that we need to support, because no individual company is going to fix the waste problem in Kenya, you know, on their own. No matter how big or small that company is, we all need to work together as a team, because the waste doesn't discriminate whose waste it is, which material it is, you know, whose brand it is. It doesn't discriminate. So we have to kind of work together to get that waste out of the environment, recycled, and made back into another product that has a functional use. And I think that's the way the world is going. So as South Africa, it was very important for us to support Kepro by not only joining Kepro, but also serving on the Kepro leadership team in order to, you know, make the transition to circular economy a reality for Kenya.
Thank you very much, Akshay, and really emphasizing the value chain system, because as we look at circularity, we're also looking at environmental performance across the entire value chain. So if you pick up a particular product, how is the performance of the entire value chain just for it to be more sustainable? I'd like at this point, as we continue with this panel session, call back Shiro. And Shiro, we are still discussing the environment from a business perspective. We are looking at it as an opportunity. So the circular economy, of course, presents these opportunities for businesses to generate revenue as a business case, as we look at addressing social and environmental challenges, offering solutions for that, and also addressing the bigger issues around humanity. We earlier talked about the high population growth. We are looking at networking different businesses across the continent and globally. So a lot of opportunities for production expansion and also consumption patterns that may change from time to time. What support, Shiro, do you need or do businesses need to be able to prosper in this particular area of circularity, scale up, and also have greater impacts in the communities that surround them?
Thank you, Joyce, and thank you to all the panelists as well. We know that the government, and Piers Kipto has told us, is working on a lot of policies that are amazing. Our question usually is, okay, there really should be incentive from the government, because we are doing good for the environment that all of us do business in. Yes, we have the taxes and all that we talk about. However, how do we get incentives as businesses that are actually doing the right thing? We don't seem to see this happening. I know it's discussion at policy level. The other thing is we need maybe a hypermarket where we all the big manufacturers, for example, you know, I loved just listening to actually just now, and I've already been on the website, looking at some of the products that we could possibly rework. Where do we find businesses saying, look, we have this waste? Is there smaller businesses or even larger businesses that maybe need it? It's not always equals to money, because we know the resource is what we need. So even though you get money, you still need to buy material. Whereas if somebody does have the material, which is waste, how do we start finding a bank where there are these things? Maybe CAM can put this together, or Global Compact. We need information. Information is key. But to be honest, Joyce, I also find the one thing that confuses us is and I'll keep repeating this, the kizungu mingi around circularity. It makes a lot of businesses and business owners and even people who work in businesses feel it's not for them. It's, you know, it's for another world, the UN world, whereas it affects each of us daily. So we need a campaign, I think, and believe we need a campaign that shows people, look, it starts with each one of us. It doesn't have to be complex. Innovation doesn't mean stuff that takes us to the moon. Innovation just means how we redo what we do. And we've done it for a long time. So we need to bring that back and tell people this is not complex, but it's for the better today and tomorrow that we all live in.
Thank you, Shiro. I know we are accused of having a lot of NGO language, big words, and even as we work with government, we have tried our best to go to the counties and try to speak, at the local level to translate what climate change means to them, whether it's how floods affect probably their productivity or how they harvest from their farms, floods or drought, just to show these things are real, but how then do you innovate and circumvent some of these challenges? So it's a problem. We take up that challenge to build up on campaigns, demystify the vocabularies, and just show Kenyans that I was telling somebody one time that, long time we actually used to return bottles of soda to the shop.
Correct.
And you take it so personally if someone broke them, because you'd say, that's my money that's lost. So we still had those take back schemes those days. How do we bring them back with more innovation and also more efficiency as we seek to reduce how we utilize, how we waste resources and optimize what we have? So thank you, Shiro. I'd like to invite again Dr. Anne Omambia. As a regulator, Dr. Omambia, NEMA has been at the forefront in championing for responsible environmental management. Can you briefly share information on the regulatory, legislative, and institutional frameworks in Kenya that support this effort specifically, and how the manufacturing sector can comply, in a more sustainable way as friends with NEMA?
Thank you, Madam Joyce, for having me again. Indeed, again, re-echoing the words of the Principal Secretary, the government is an enabler. And as an enabler, we are supposed to create a user-friendly environment, one in which the citizenry can actively participate in taking care of the environment. And that calls for what in Swahili we call uzalendo. And essentially it means that what the Constitution says to the right to a clean and healthy environment and the responsibility to keep it so. So that is a bit of the uzalendo it comes in. I have a responsibility to ensure that where I live and where I work and where I interact in my social circles or commercial circles, that I don't go with what we used to call in planning, not in my backyard theory. Essentially, that I don't take my waste and dump it in somebody else's backyard and assume that the environment is clean, because the environment is one. And what you dump in the sea or in the land or in the air will end up coming back to your table in one way or another, or in your nostrils, or you will interact with it either through contact. Maybe it's a chemical that you dump somewhere, it will end up coming back to you in another form. And therefore that calls for a set of regulations. One, again, the Constitution, which I have mentioned. And then we also have the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. This is a framework law of 1999. It has been revised twice now, and it will continuously be revised as environmental challenges are unprecedented as they come. We have to be responsive to them. But being a framework law, we also have subsidiary legislations or regulations that govern or encourage the circularity loop. One of them, which I mentioned, was environmental management. That is, all of them are made under the Environment Management and Coordination Act. So we have the environmental impact assessment. This is the first step, especially when it comes to manufacturing, because most types of activities within the manufacturing sector will one way or another require an impact assessment. This one you do before you start your bakery, for example. Let me look at it as a large-scale bakery. I'm going to be making bread. I will need various types of resources and maybe have some sort of waste. What are the mitigation measures I'm going to make? And where can I put this bakery of mine such that the neighbors don't complain about the bakery? Or let's look for a more injurious type of activity. I'm going to put up an incinerator. How am I going to ensure that I manage the waste when it comes in and when it goes out? I'm doing waste to energy. How do I manage that whole transport loop to ensure as I transport the waste, it's not spilling and that the emissions from it actually do not increase the carbon footprint, even though I'm converting waste to energy. Then the impact assessment should be able to, as much as possible, comprehensively analyze that and come up with mitigation measures. Upon implementation of your entity, we also have, you have to do the continuous environmental auditing, which is self-audit, and the one which we have to do through a multi-agency team to come and audit your facility or individually as NEMA. Then we also have the waste management regulations. This govern all types of waste. And then specifically, we also have the water quality regulations. We have the wetlands regulations that talk about the fresh waters, the marine ecosystems, and other aquatic bodies. How can we protect our riparian zones? How can we ensure we don't pollute our waters? We have the air quality regulations. As you can see, the regulations all touch on the various spheres of the environment. We have the controlled substances regulations. These are regulations that relate to substances that deplete the ozone layer. This mainly are categorized as refrigeration and air conditioning equipment. As the climate changes, you have referred to it, Madam Moderator, frequently. Yes, the climate is changing. And how are we able to contribute individually and collectively towards minimizing its impact on ourselves? Therefore, how do we control the substances that deplete the ozone layer or enhance climate change? We also have the Climate Change Act of 2016. Our PS did make reference to it. Further, we also have the Public Health Act, which is one of the oldest laws of Kenya, which has been pre-colonial, colonial times, and also has been revised and upscaled over the years, and it's very, very useful. The occupational health and safety, there's a touch again other entities, but we do collaborate with them. Counties who were, as we are aware that waste management, that is refuse and sewage, is a devolved function. And the counties have also come up with their own set of regulations to help us in ensuring that we have proper, a clean and safe environment. And we are aware again of the green economy and strategy and implementation plan and the climate change plans, which our PS made reference to. Essentially, all this policy and legislative framework are there to provide for a means of knowing and setting standards, setting ways in which you can be able to get assistance. As NEMA, we collaborate with Kenya National Cleaner Production Center and other entities to provide compliance assistance to industry. Increasingly, some industries do not accept it, but essentially participating in compliance assistance, allowing us to come through a collaborative approach to train you on how you can be able to resource efficiently, use your resources efficiently, can be useful towards not only saving costs for the industry, but enhancing that circularity loop. And of course, the fact that climate change, if you look at the economics of it, the impact that it has when we ignore it and not include it in closing our loop of resource use efficiency, actually does have a very major economic, social, environmental, and other impacts that are negative, more when not addressed, but positive if you embrace it and put up the mitigation measures and the resilience building to ensure that your industry is able to work for a longer time and reduce its impact on the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Omambia. You've given us a very good landscape of the environmental regulations for us to anticipate compliance expectations, as well as also predict future environmental regulations that may arise as we promote circular economy. Thank you. We will move to the next speaker. For those who've just joined, we are still addressing issues of driving manufacturing ambition within circular economy. Also, how to promote high environmental performance in the economy, what we call green competitiveness. At the moment, we've gone through challenges of the security of supply, trying to reduce costs, and also just looking at proper branding in terms of differentiations of our products, our brands, and addressing some of the global competitiveness challenges. Our next panelist is Tejal Dodia, the MD of Thika Cloth Mills. The textile and apparel sector, is uniquely positioned to drive inclusive growth through mass job creation. Most of the, young people are in the textile sector getting jobs there. But we've also seen that production processes can be unsustainable if not well managed. For instance, it's estimated that Kenya has an annual import of 100 million kilograms of secondhand clothes. This, I know, is a challenge for those that are doing local manufacturing of textile. Tejal, what are some other obstacles that the textile sector faces while mainstreaming circular economy, and particularly how has Thika Cloth Mills dealt with them? Welcome, Tejal.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to all the panelists. PS Kipto, nice to see you. I think we were in Las Vegas some many years ago, trying to look for the markets abroad for Kenya. And maybe the circular economy is going to open many doors, but we have to get our manufacturing in place, and who's going to do it and how and when. Those are all the questions. So the way I look at circular economy is very similar to, I'm a pusher for Buy Kenya, Build Kenya, very similar. What is what we can manage within ourselves. And I think Kenya is very, very well placed. First of all, almost everything here is recycled from the way I see it, having traveled to other parts of the world. When I was young and we used to go and put the bottles, this is a bottle recycling, this is a textile recycling, that doesn't happen here, but yet everything sort of gets recycled, because I think Kenya has been very innovative. Now, if you talk of the textile industry, where we've been taking all the excess capacities of all the factories of the world, comes to either Eastleigh or comes as secondhand and then goes all over Africa. And we've been using all the waste of all the world in terms of textiles. So I think we're very good at that, and we'll continue to be good at that. But maybe we will do it a bit differently moving forward. So first, to the world, please can every country manage its own waste and don't push it to Africa, because we are not here to take your waste, firstly. But anyway, if we are taking it, which we are, and we're not saying you can't stop overnight, like when we had started this discussion, it was said that things don't happen overnight, and we don't expect things to happen overnight. But there's a great opportunity here, because we have seen India, Singapore, some countries, Korea, they've started putting in some recycling plants where they're taking the old textiles, the waste, actually the real waste, which cannot be reused, cannot be reworn, something which is now going to go into a dump site and going to get burnt. And they're now making this into yarn, and from yarn to fabric to garment. Now, this technology has been there since like last 2.5 years, I think, maybe longer, but that's what I see. I don't know how, there's a factory in India doing it at a very large scale. And I think there's a huge opportunity for us in Africa to move this way, especially for the fashion industry, where they don't need very high strengths of yarn. They don't need very high strengths of quality. So because they're only going to wear it for 6 months and then they're going to throw it away. That's how the fashion industry is. So there are a number of things. Firstly, the global fashion market has to change quite a bit. So if you are, I don't want to say any brand names in the US, a good brand name in the US or in the UK, and you have waste, first of all, why do you over-order in the first place? So manage your waste that way. Okay, once you've over-ordered, then you need to do something with that waste. It comes to Africa, and then we sell it as secondhand. Okay, fine. But the thing is, here in Kenya, we can look at this as an opportunity, actually, when these things come. Of course, the first grade, second grade, they can be worn. They will be worn. And then after being worn, what next? And it could go for recycling. When you look at Thika Cloth Mills, we're very far from that, because this means that we have to invest in sorting machinery. We need to look at washing lines, which will take out all the dyes which are there, and then reassemble and then convert it into yarn. It's something pretty new. We have to do a lot of research, but there's a lot of opportunity. So if not necessarily Thika Cloth Mills, but for anybody who wants to go a little bit more into this, they can look at it, do the homework, do the research, how much power you need, how much labor you need, and whether it can be sustainable. As for the Western world and the youngsters today, I have a 17-year-old daughter. They want this. It's all about this. It's all about recycling. It's all about sustainability. It's all about preserving our world resources and using what we have first. Then when we don't have, we can go back to our principal resources. So this is what the world wants. The world wants to go this way. You know, I'm a big, big Disney fan, you know, because it's fairy tales and I love that. But when I went to Disney and I saw all the plastic and all the plastic and all the plastic, I couldn't eat anymore, you know. So, and I'm really happy to see that they put some policies in place. I'm looking at what they're doing and that they're putting something to make it better. So it's really important that our world leaders be strong and say, we don't want the plastic. We don't want it. We don't want it. Doesn't matter. People will fight it back, but we don't want it. Please let us manage our plastic waste, especially plastic, because it goes into our seas and then it stays there forever and ever, you know. So as for Thika Cloth Mills, I want to give you the example of our boilers. We were the first people to convert our furnace oil boilers in the 1990s. And we were using all the waste products. So the macadamia factory is just next door. They would come with a tractor, they would just offload their macadamia nuts, and then we wait for, I was very small, I would see the tractor coming and wait for the tractor to come and offload. Now today, those macadamia shells are being sold at a really high price because everybody wants them. Everybody's converted their boilers into waste boilers. So we use coffee husks, we use macadamia shells, we use cashew nut shells, and now it's becoming scarcer and scarcer because everybody's converted their boilers. This is also what could happen even in what we're talking about, the textile. You know, we only right now, only 20% is being, the raw material, only 20% is being recycled. There's still 80% that needs to be recycled. So when you're looking at paybacks and things, you be sure that the raw material is going to be there for tomorrow, you know. As for what we do at Thika Cloth Mills, we're doing the uniforms. The uniforms is a sort of kind of different because it has to last, especially in Africa where a uniform is worn by an elder child and then worn by a younger child. It lasts for 4 years, you know, I would say quite nicely. So quality is important, efficiencies are, I mean, quality is the key. And this may not be so easy to substitute immediately, but in the long run, maybe if we can get, we can have a look and see how the yarns are performing, etc. And there's creation of jobs, because when you get all this waste, you have to sort it out. And so I don't think it's going to impact negatively the creation of jobs. In fact, it's going to create the jobs because the Western world want recycled products. And when you have a green product, it's going to go. So this is the way to move. We shouldn't be afraid to move in this direction. At Thika Cloth Mills, we're going solar. I think many factories in Kenya have gone solar. Although our Kenya power lighting, our power is quite green here because it's hydro and a lot of, we are okay with our power. It's pretty green, but still almost so many factories are converting to solar as well because the solar panels have become so much cheaper than they ever were and the paybacks are much, much quicker. So that's a very good way to go green. The other thing that we are doing is with the help of Misingi, which is a consultancy firm here in Kenya, we have looked at our effluent plant. Although we are meeting all the NEMA requirements with the current effluent plant we have, they have given us a proposal where we can recycle our water 90%, which means you will no longer be taking water out. You're going to be using the water again and again. And this is something very interesting for Thika Cloth Mills. We're definitely going to implement it. We just have to make sure we have some money for it, you know, and investment always needs money and paybacks sometimes are very long. And in some instances, the paybacks are not even there because you're going green. But then when you go green, people are looking for you because you're green. That's it, simple. And people are going to look for green products. So let's all be determined to go in this direction of going more green. We're already very green in Kenya. I love it. That's why I love this country and I love living here because everything is used. There's very little wastage and we should be very proud of what we have done. We did the plastic ban, which was very tough because there was job losses. Even at CAM, I know the discussions in the boardrooms, how they were very heated, but I think we did the right thing. And now we're going to see, we're going to move forward. And now you drive to Masai Mara, you don't see all the plastic on the fences anymore like we used to see. So thank you for protecting the country, to those who are doing it, and keep doing it. And let's embrace the change. And we have to embrace the change. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Tejal. You brought in the global landscape, changing patterns either in design or consumer preference, and also just locally what we're doing. I know we had said we'll finish at 11:30 sharp. So I'd like to invite Akshay to quickly just tell us what advice you have for CEOs in terms of sustainability and how they can be part of this journey. Just very quickly, and then we open the Q&A session, and thereafter we can have 1 minute sound bites from each of the speakers today. Akshay?
Thanks. So I think the message to all the CEOs is that the future of manufacturing or any industry, whether it's farming or construction or any industry, it is going to be moving towards circular economy. One is because the planet can't take it anymore. This make waste is not sustainable. Any industry that doesn't shift towards that, either you will not have consumers and customers that support you because they are watching. They are watching what we do as CEOs. So we need to be on the right side of history. And the other thing is that there's a huge economic opportunity when we move to circular economy. It's creating totally new business models, jobs, especially around the waste management sector, which has sort of been kind of, I would say, in many of the areas has been operating on the fringe, not particularly the most attractive or high ROI businesses to get into, but that's going to be changing. So as CEOs, my message to you is that let's be on the right side of history, be part of a PRO. If you're in the packaged goods side of things, either as a manufacturer or as a packaging user or a raw material or retailer, just reach out to KEPRO and join and support this transition. And also become compliant, right? I think we are going to be having EPR regulations that will be launched in Kenya, and we have to be on the right side of the law as well. So this is the time to really lead by example and show what your company and what your own leadership is all about.
Thank you, Akshay. I've only seen one question in the Q&A section. I don't know if there are other questions from the attendees. Anybody would like to have any question, you could also post them on the chat, and later we can consolidate all the questions and the suggestions and the insights and share with all of you. From the Q&A section, I can see a question from Eric. How can we contain investors and business concerns on venturing into a circular economy now with the known political climate during elections? I'd like our chairman to respond to this later as he does his last soundbite or call to action.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, for the hard question. I think one of the other things which was mentioned earlier, I believe, and we should be raising is that how circularity will help with supply chains as well. Because even when people have been disrupted by things like COVID, and COVID continues to disrupt global supply chains. As we know right now, shipping, for instance, of materials is a big challenge. So, as you start thinking about the disruptions you might have in supply chains, etc., it starts making sense. And these are actions you must take to prepare yourself to be able to be resilient in times of supply challenges, because you have alternatives and there are ways to go around it. So that's another added business advantage. In terms of elections, I think we have elections every 5 years. We've had multi-party elections now going almost since 2002, 20-something years. We know what happens around elections and how we get around them, etc. And in each case, we know that there is a life after elections. So a lot of I would say, forward-looking businesses are actually thinking about life after elections. This is the time to start thinking about making some investments, and if not to make investments, to start planning for them. Like we said earlier, this is a long journey. You don't need to make your biggest move as your first move. You're making many different small moves throughout the process. So whereas I think even COVID seems to have a bigger impact in the coming elections on business decisions, people might hold back on some big decisions. You don't need to make the big, massive decisions, but there are already things you can start working on. And we had so many examples here today of different things that you can do that gets you onto that path of circularity. It's good to highlight also that circularity will have a lot of experimentation as part of the innovation journey. We're going to try this, see if it works. Some things will work better than others. Some will hold better than others. So we still need to start, because again, the challenge we're having with the climate, the global warming and climate change, etc., it's not waiting for the elections. It is already happening and continuing to happen. So we must take action sooner than later. So I would encourage people to keep moving, take small bites, experiment, understand, build these networks we're talking about, and you should be able to get on that journey. That is the key thing. The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So we must start working. Thanks, Joyce. Thank
you, Chairman Moshai. People seem to have understood everything because we don't have questions. But the panelists, I wish to say, are available, and we can, if you want to speak to them privately or even visit them, they're available for further discussions. We have the KEPRO that was recently launched, and they're seeking to support packaging innovations. And we also have the Center for Green Growth and Climate Change that will enhance this awareness and capacity building opportunities to help you transition towards taking advantage of the circularity or different circular value chains as we grow the green competitiveness markets. I understand there are 2 questions on the chat. Judy, maybe you can read them for us.
Yes, I believe there's a question from Emma Wanjiro. She's asking, talking of circularity, how does that apply to services sector, I suppose?
So it's not addressed to anybody in particular. I can see Akshay has unmuted. Would you want to address that?
Yeah, sure. So for a company that is in services sector, obviously not dealing with a material, but you are consuming, energy. You're consuming space. You're probably consuming, certain consumables such as maybe paper or ink or something. So it's not necessarily about the value that is coming, through your company to your clients, but about how much of a footprint is your company actually taking up. And you could look at those areas within your company and see how could you become, with anything that you're buying in order to run your business, could you reuse that? Could you buy maybe a more sustainable source of paper and reuse the paper, or even go paperless, which is even better. And I think the same message also applies to companies that are manufacturing, that it's not just about being circular with your product. It's also about being circular with your own manufacturing activities in-house.
Thank you, Akshay. Judy, you could read the second question and then we close.
Yes, so the second question from Lucy Ngatia, she's asking, how do we get different technologies, knowledge, skills on how to integrate circular activities in our businesses?
Yes, I had mentioned that we have different outfits that we've set up at CAM, and also the government reiterated, like NEMA, on how to link people to technologies and capacity building. So we'll create a partnership and create awareness on opportunities for training, one of which I said the Center for Green Growth and Climate Change already has very well-structured programs on the trainings in understanding circular economy, how you can promote your design, and generally along your value chain, how you can build business models with that. And we're also working on green markets, which Tejal mentioned that consumers now want green products, and we just have to comply in the way that we produce our goods. Also, NEMA has opened up that opportunity, and KEPRO. So please reach out to us, write to us, and we will lead you to the different opportunities you're looking for. I know Shiro also has been doing a lot of capacity building and speaking. Maybe Shiro, if you have a comment in that area, and then we can close.
Yeah, thanks, Joyce. Also, it's very specific to business. So I think it's first to understand what your business, or whether you're in manufacturing or service, does. So when you're then looking for a solution, because it's not one size fits all. Just to also respond on the consulting example, you use technology, which really could be the phones or the laptops. There's something called e-waste. And then there's businesses that need the e-waste that you will be using with your services. So as we go into looking and understanding better and approach the fantastic opportunities Joyce has mentioned, please understand what your business does first, because a lot of the times we try and find a one size fits all, and it doesn't work like that. It really should be about what we do as businesses and what we're looking to achieve as a company, but also collectively. So kindly just assess yourselves a bit better, or through Joyce, as she's mentioned, and then you can see where it works for you. Some of it is actually extremely low tech, doesn't even need tech. It just needs to change the way we think and the way we operate. Some of it requires no investment at all, except opening our minds and seeing how to do what we do differently. Thank you.
Thank you, Shiro. I think we've all agreed on the way forward, how we change our mindsets and begin to work collaboratively in the structured partnerships that are there. We're also open to innovations around the different partnerships that we can form. I wish to invite Dr. Chris Kiptoo to just give his snapshot of how government will continue with the commitment to support private sector to thrive in this green and circular economy.
Thank you, Joyce. Sorry, I had to step out, so I missed out on a number of contributions made by many, but I hear that it has gone on very well. I just want to repeat that we are moving now to circular economy. We don't have a choice, and we have done everything necessary as a government to ensure we move to that direction. The policy framework is in place now. We have the legal framework, which we are busy, especially on with Parliament, to ensure we have the waste management bill finalized. That will force everyone, especially in waste segregation, and because this is a source of pollution to our environment, where we just get all the waste mixed up, taken to Dandora, and we have to make sure that that goes out. But it's very encouraging to listen to companies such as those represented here today on what they are already doing. It means even before we have the law coming in place, a number of institutions, a number of companies are already moving to circular economy. So well done to them. And we want to ensure that we encourage many more to come in. I think by next year, God willing, we should have had the bill passed by Parliament. We will also expect that the extended producer responsibility will be gazetted soon, and therefore within 6 months most of you will have your PROs, and so we expect that that move to circularity will be realized, because if we circular economy will give us the tools, as I said earlier, to tackle climate change, which is one of the crises in the world, to tackle biodiversity loss, which is another problem, and waste and pollution control. So let me stop there. I know my colleague from NEMA has already, talked on a number of measures we are taking, especially relating to the regulations. So let's have more forums, because I see many people are still asking about this issue of circular economy. So thank you, CAM, and thank you, the Global Compact Network, for organizing this forum. Thank you. I think I now sign off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kiptoo, and your presence is a confirmation that this is a very serious topic for us to embrace. We are still talking about moving from reacting towards reacting on regulatory compliance towards driving innovations for green strategies and being competitive as industries. That's really the message, that we are now not reacting. We are, moving ahead of regulation and innovating and driving green competitiveness in the markets, not just locally and globally. At this point, I know we've taken quite some time from our finish time, which was expected to be 11:30. I wish to invite Judy Njino, Chief Executive UN Global Compact, to give a vote of thanks, and then we can close. Thank you. Judy?
Yeah, thank you, Joyce, and I'll make it quick. I know we are way over time. So mine is to really appreciate all our speakers today. Thank you for the time that you have committed to take through our participants what your respective companies are doing and how Circularity actually manifests in practice. We really do appreciate, encourage you to go even a step further. I think you've already demonstrated quite well that those opportunities are there and that, yeah, you're making business sense out of them. Thank you also to our chair at CAM for making the time to be with us throughout this conversation. And thank you also for the leadership in driving sustainability within the sector. To PS Kipto, I think as Joyce has said, clearly, I think your presence throughout the meeting is testament that this is a very important conversation, even at government level. So we remain as partners with you to help take this conversation and this movement forward. And finally, to Joyce, thank you for the moderating. I think you did an excellent job. You helped us stay on course, but also jointly we've been able to identify the opportunities that we need to take forward to drive this conversation and the actions. Yeah, and of course to all our participants for making the time to join us for the last 1.5 hours. We do value your time, we value your contributions, and we ask you to join us for the next round that we will again be advancing this conversation. So I thank you all and wish you all a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Have a good day. We will now end the session and close the Zoom link. Thank you very much.
Thank you.